Welcome to Fantasy Garden. Relax and make yourself at home. Night breathes slowly inside the great house, and every sound seems covered by a fine dust of silence, until, from deep within, a tired clock threatens to break the dawn. Yet before it does, another rhythm stirs, that of a young woman sweeping the last embers from the hearth, as if guarding secrets in the palm of her hand. The glow of the coals fades and flares again, like a premonition. You can almost hear destiny pulling up a chair to sit at the table. If this atmosphere has touched you, leave a like, share what you felt, and subscribe to the channel. That's how you help this story continue being told for those who need to hear it, and offer us your hand, so we may cross together the path that begins now. The kitchen is a world apart. The sweet vapor of forgotten apples simmering in a pot, the old wood creaking with memories of storms, jars lined up like soldiers, each keeping a rumor of the day. Cinderella moves through this scene with shy grace, almost invisible, as if she knows that the slightest noise could awaken thunder upstairs. The damp cloth in the basin, the bucket in the corner, the broom resting against the stone. Everything about her speaks of care, of a quiet love for the order of things, even when those things never love her back. Every now and then she lifts her gaze toward the window, staring at the starless sky, as though searching for a secret street in the dark where life might finally find its way in. Upstairs, her two stepsisters sleep, their heavy breathing painting shadows on the wallpaper, and the stepmother, whose presence lingers in the air even when the room is empty. Commands descend like chains, and silences weigh more than any scream. Cinderella has learned to listen to what no one says. The house's mute plea for a gesture of gentleness, the fire's quiet hunger for one more piece of wood, the flower's whispered thirst for a sip of water. Between chores and sighs, she rehearses small escapes. A hum beneath her breath, a thought that dances, a memory of when life smelled like fresh bread and mornings began with stories, not with lists. Sometimes, after scrubbing the floor stones, she lets her hands rest upon her knees and imagines those same stones forming the streets of an unknown city. Perhaps a market lit by lanterns, perhaps a harbor where ships arrive bearing news from places where people call each other by name with tenderness. In those suspended minutes, the house seems to retreat, as though recognizing in her an ancient sovereignty, the quiet royalty of one who knows how to wait. The wind, slipping through the cracks, plays with a loose strand of her hair, and Cinderella smiles faintly, the smile of someone who, even wounded, insists on choosing the brighter side of things, even if it's just the faint glimmer of a stubborn ember. But the world inside these walls has its laws, and they tend to awaken before the sun. The stepmother descends the stairs with measured steps, the banister reflecting, for a heartbeat, the cold shimmer of a ring. There are questions that demand no answers, only paths to impose tasks. The cloth must be wrung, the boots polished, the hallway demands patience. Cinderella replies with a yes that isn't surrender. It's a yes of survival, a delicate pact with destiny. It isn't about accepting darkness, but tending the light that fits within her hands, however small, so that when the moment comes, it may find its way through. In the backyard, the day truly begins. The damp leaves make a soft rustling, like applause for a show that hasn't yet begun. The henhouse stirs, the first carriages trace the distant road, and the village lights its routines with the modesty of those who don't wish to disturb. Cinderella opens the door and breathes. The cold air brings her a quiet courage, small but precious, the kind that doesn't appear in books and doesn't ask for witnesses. It's in this everyday bravery, made of short steps and simple gestures, that our story finds its first heartbeat. Because before any miracle, there is always a heart that chooses to keep going, and hers, as you'll soon see, has already begun to call the impossible by name. Morning advances with the scent of freshly baked bread drifting from the neighboring houses, but in Cinderella's kitchen, the fragrance is that of wood burning slowly. She watches the flame by instinct, like someone learning to speak with something that doesn't reply, but understands. There's a quiet melancholy in the air, and every movement she makes seems like an attempt to mend what life has broken without apology. As she wrings the cloth and wipes the table, memories of a brighter time return like fragments of a dream. Her mother's laughter, her father's gentle touch, the stories told by the fire about a world where kindness still carried weight and a name. Now, those voices are only echoes, and the house that once sheltered love has become a stage for obedience. Every now and then, Cinderella tries to rescue a little piece of that lost world. A handkerchief she's kept hidden, a porcelain plate that has yet to break, a song she hums softly when she believes herself alone. The stepmother hates the sound, perhaps because music has the power to awaken what pride prefers to forget. The stepsisters, on the other hand, live as if mirrors were windows to the future, always seeking a reflection that makes them feel important. Cinderella understands and forgives. She doesn't envy the sparkle they chase, for she has discovered a secret glow, the kind of light only those who have known darkness can carry within. As the day stretches on, her routine becomes a familiar dance. Cloth, water, ashes, laughter that doesn't belong to her. Yet it's in the pauses between that monotony that destiny begins to move, silently, like a river beneath the earth. Outside, the sound of hooves echoes through the streets. The king's soldiers spread parchment announcements, and a ripple of excitement runs through open windows. There will be a grand ball at the palace, an event for the entire kingdom. The news slips past the house's walls like wind on a stormy night, and reaches Cinderella not through her ears, but through her heart. Something awakens, something that can no longer pretend to sleep. The stepmother receives the news with feigned grace. Her daughters shriek, rush, measure gowns and smiles before their mirrors. The air fills with perfume and anticipation, and for a moment, the house feels like a theater in rehearsal. Cinderella watches from a distance, as if she belongs to another world, and perhaps she does. She approaches timidly, not to ask for anything, but to share in the excitement that vibrates through the air. Yet her words fall before they're spoken. The stepmother's cold stare cuts her gesture short, and the sisters burst into laughter, mocking the very idea of a servant at the royal ball. The hope that had just risen now folds back inside her chest. But fate rarely accepts refusal so easily. As she scrubs the floor, Cinderella feels her heart beat stronger. There's something in the air that doesn't belong to that house, something ancient and kind, as if the universe itself had leaned a little in her direction. She closes her eyes for a moment, takes a deep breath, and allows herself to dream, not of the prince, nor of the ball, but of something far simpler, the feeling of freedom, of existing without permission. That spark alone is all her fairy godmother needs to find her way there. In the realm of stories, the impossible always begins like this, with a thought brave enough to wish. Outside, the wind shifts its course. The clouds race like messengers, and a raven lands on the window, watching her with eyes that seem to know too much. The fireplace crackles, a shimmer of light glides across the stone floor, and time itself seems to hesitate. For a breathless instant, everything is suspended, as if the world were holding its inhale. Cinderella doesn't understand, but she feels it. The air changes, and deep within her chest something whispers. What is yours is on its way. She smiles without knowing why and returns to her chores. But the universe, silent and attentive, has already taken note of her wish. And in the stories worth telling, such wishes are never left unanswered. Night arrives like someone carrying answers hidden in their pocket. Cinderella is alone, surrounded by the stillness of a sleeping house, and the sound of the wind seems to come from another time. She sits by the fireplace, her eyes lost among the embers glowing like small stars trapped in the floor. For a moment, the silence is not empty. It's full of unspoken promises. Outside, the moon pours its pale light through the window, as if it wished to take part in the secret that is about to unfold. The clock marks the hours with patience, and Cinderella sighs, unaware that destiny, tired of waiting, has already begun to weave new threads around her story. A crackle, light as laughter, breaks the air. The flame in the hearth rises suddenly, spinning as though it has found its own will. The embers turn golden, then silver, and from them emerges a figure wrapped in gentle glimmers. Neither shadow nor light, but something in between. Cinderella steps back, her heart racing, until a sweet, ancient voice says, "Do not fear, my child." The voice feels familiar, like the echo of a childhood memory, and before her stands the fairy godmother, a serene presence, as though woven from moonlight and the scent of jasmine. The impossible has arrived, and it comes with tenderness. The fairy gazes at Cinderella with eyes that see the unseen. "Why do you weep if your heart still shines?" she asks. Startled by the question, Cinderella tries to hide her tears. "Because light means nothing to me if I must live in the dark," she whispers. The fairy smiles, and the gesture is so delicate it makes the air shimmer. "Ah, but it's that very light that will lead you out," she says, lifting her wand. A slender hazel branch that glows with a soft radiance. The magic doesn't burst with thunder, but with music. Notes that seem to rise from the air itself, as gentle as the sound of hope learning to speak again after long silence. The floor floods with light. Cinderella's worn, stained dress begins to transform. With each spark, the fabric renews itself, the seams realign, the colors come alive. It is as though a dream is being woven before her eyes. Within seconds, she wears what she never imagined she could deserve. A gown made from the night itself, shimmering with stars in motion. The fairy steps closer and touches her hand. Now only the right step toward freedom remains. With a graceful motion, she transforms a forgotten pumpkin in the corner into a golden carriage, and the little mice hiding among the pots into white horses with silver manes. Cinderella can barely speak. Emotion passes through her entirely, as though every cell in her body recognizes a truth it had long awaited. She has always been more than the ashes that tried to call her back to the ground. The fairy watches her with tenderness. "But remember," she says, "all that is magical must honor time. When the clock strikes midnight, the spell will break. What is real, however, will remain. For what is born from the soul needs no enchantment to exist." Cinderella nods, her gaze shining like crystal itself. The fairy then offers her one final gift, a pair of transparent shoes, delicate and luminous, like the promise of a new destiny. Outside, the night seems to open in applause. The carriage waits, the horses whinny softly, and the wind hums an ancient song, the same one the stars sing whenever fate changes course. Cinderella climbs the steps, her heart divided between fear and wonder. Before departing, she looks back once more at the house, now silent. There is a farewell that cannot be spoken, a chapter closing with the soft sound of a gate opening. And when the wheels touch the road, the whole world seems to lean toward her, as if finally recognizing who she has always been, the girl of the ashes, about to become light. The carriage glides down the road beneath the deep mantle of night, and the world around her feels suspended between dream and reality. Sitting by the window, Cinderella gazes at the horizon with eyes that still can't believe what they see. The dark fields stretch out like a sleeping sea, and the moon lays a silver glow over them, turning the trees into columns of an ancient temple. The sound of the wheels against the earth hums softly, almost like a distant song. Each turn of the wheel is a reminder that something extraordinary is happening, and at the same time that everything could vanish in an instant, like a secret the universe tells only once. Inside the carriage, the air carries the faint perfume of night-blooming flowers and the gentle warmth of trembling candlelight, casting golden reflections over Cinderella's gown. The fabric shimmers, alive, breathing, as if it held the stars themselves within its folds. She runs her hand across her lap, feeling the delicate texture, trying to grasp whether any of this could be real. But the heart doesn't bother with explanations. It only beats, overflowing with a joy too vast for words. She closes her eyes for a moment, and the motion of the carriage makes her feel as though she's floating between worlds, leaving behind not only the house of ashes but the weight of days that were never truly hers. The road winds between rolling hills and old stone bridges. At every bend, the forest opens like a portal, revealing glimmering rivers, fields glistening with dew, and small villages where the lit windows look like lanterns waving farewell. A cool breeze sneaks into the carriage, tugging at a loose strand of her hair, and she smiles softly to herself. There is something profoundly human in that instant of silence and beauty. For the first time in a long while, she feels like part of the world, not merely a shadow moving through it. Everything she has lived seems distant now, dissolved into the road that carries her toward the heart of destiny. As the journey continues, the stars grow brighter, and the sky bends as if bowing in reverence to what is coming. Deep down, Cinderella senses that time itself has changed its shape. The past unravels like smoke, the present stretches into light, and the future pulses ahead, calling her gently forward. There's something hypnotic in the way moonlight dances upon the carriage curtains, drawing faint, wing-like patterns, as if the night itself wished to protect her. She leans her face against her hand, and her distant gaze softens with an ancient tenderness, as though she can already feel that at the end of this road, something greater than a dream awaits. When the path begins to widen, she senses a subtle change in the air. The night grows warmer, and a golden glow rises beyond the next hill. Her heart tightens, and the rhythm of the wheels seems to quicken, guided now by a force that no longer depends on reins. The carriage passes through an ornate iron gate, and suddenly the world unfolds. Before her stands the castle, vast and radiant, surrounded by gardens and torches flickering like celestial fires. The walls mirror the starlight, and each tower seems to reach up to touch the heavens. Cinderella sits perfectly still, wrapped in silent awe. Her eyes trace every detail: the colored glass windows, the shadows moving within, the music spilling softly from tall, arched halls like a beckoning voice. Inside her, fear and wonder swirl together, twin forces in delicate balance. The carriage slows, the sound of hooves mingling with the melody in the air. The castle seems to watch her, curious, as though it too recognizes something familiar in her presence. The whole night folds around her, and for a fleeting heartbeat, everything feels on the verge of revelation. And there, between the glow of moonlight and the unseen touch of magic, Cinderella understands. Destiny had been waiting all along. It only needed her courage to arrive. The carriage slows its pace, and the sound of hooves striking the stone path echoes like the prelude to something sacred. Outside, the castle rises before Cinderella in all its splendor, a structure that seems to have been born from the moonlight itself. The towers reach the heavens with golden tips, and the windows gleam like crystal eyes. Vast gardens unfold around it, filled with white flowers that breathe both fragrance and silence. She watches everything through the small opening of the window, her heart pounding with the force of someone who knows she has crossed an invisible threshold between what was and what could be. The faint sound of music reaches her, sweet and vibrant, as if the wind itself had learned to dance. Violins and flutes intertwine in a murmur that seems to come from within the soul. The palace lights flicker like earthly stars, reflecting across the waters of the lake that surrounds the main courtyard. Cinderella feels the entire world beating in rhythm with her heart. With every note, she realizes she's about to step into a different kind of time, one where the impossible takes form. The magic that brought her here does not push nor pull her. It only whispers, "This is the moment you have waited for," in silence. Inside the carriage, the air has the thickness of a dream. The gold of the candles mingles with the silver blue of moonlight, creating an almost sacred atmosphere. Cinderella rests her trembling hands on her lap. The fabric of her gown shimmers beneath the light, and the crystal shoes scatter reflections that dance across the ceiling. Everything feels alive: the silk, the air, the hope. For an instant, she thinks of her past life. The ashes, the cold mornings, the loneliness that once seemed endless. And she marvels at the contrast. Pain now feels distant, like a memory belonging to another body, another soul. She understands that the path leading her here was not only paved by magic, but by worthiness. The castle continues to grow before her eyes. White columns gleam beneath torches burning like miniature suns. Spiral staircases rise toward the grand doors, where nobles come and go in shimmering attire. The music swells, and the glow of jewels and silks makes the entire world appear made of glass and gold. A shiver runs through her spine, not from fear, but from recognition. There is something in this place that speaks directly to her heart, as if every stone, every light softly called her by name. The coachman gently pulls the reins. The carriage slows as it circles the courtyard, lit by rows of torches and fountains. The reflection of the waters plays upon the surface of Cinderella's gown, which now glows as if woven from liquid dawn. She leans toward the window and gazes at the main gate, two enormous doors carved with symbols of flowers and moons. Every detail seems charged with mystery and fate. The sounds of laughter, voices, and the clinking of glasses reach her, wrapped in an almost hypnotic echo. Everything feels so near, and yet unreal. Cinderella remains still. Her body wants to move, but her soul wishes to linger a little longer. Outside, the prince appears briefly at the top of the staircase, speaking with his guests. The shine of his uniform reflects the same light that touches her face. In that unspoken crossing of paths, still unseen by both, destiny finds its first thread. The carriage comes to a stop. The wind blows softly, as though the night itself has held its breath. The moment has arrived, but time, generous as ever, grants her a few more seconds of silence before the first step. And in that brief pause, Cinderella understands. It wasn't the magic that transformed her. It was love, finally remembering who she truly is. The door of the carriage opens slowly, as though time itself had reached out a hand to Cinderella. The wind enters first, cool, sweet, carrying the perfume of the gardens and the distant murmur of voices drifting from inside the castle. She hesitates for a moment. The hem of her gown brushes the ground, and the silk shimmers, reflecting the torches burning like stars at eye level. In that exact instant, the world seems to hold its breath. The carriage, the horses, even the sky. Everything waits for her movement, the first step that separates anonymity from eternity. Cinderella inhales deeply. The fear is still there, but it's lighter now, almost beautiful. For it is no longer a prison, only the thin edge before freedom. The sound of her crystal shoes touching the ground is like a musical note lost in the night. Each step echoes softly, marking the rhythm of a heart trying to keep up with what's unfolding. She feels the air shift in density, the warmth of fire blending with the chill of moonlight, and every sensation feels new, unfamiliar, alive. The castle, seen from afar, was majestic, but up close, it is almost human. It breathes, it hums, it welcomes. Cinderella lifts her gaze and sees the reflection of lights dancing upon the lake, as though the heavens themselves had descended to witness the meeting destiny has arranged. The grand staircase rises before her like a river of white marble. At the top, golden doors stand open, and from them spills the music of the ball. Violins, harps, and laughter woven together in harmony. Her heart quickens. For a fleeting moment, everything that once existed, the ashes, the tears, the long colorless days, dissolves into nothing. The world narrows to a single path she must take, step by step. She doesn't think of the prince, nor the crowd awaiting inside. She thinks only of how she came to be here, and how life, at times, tests the courage of those who have suffered most, just before granting them the miracle they deserve. As she takes her first step onto the staircase, time seems to stretch. The music grows clearer, the voices nearer, her heartbeat stronger. She feels the gentle weight of her gown swaying with her movements, as if the stars stitched into its hem were whispering encouragement. Each step is a silent victory, each scar turned into light. The breeze teases a loose strand of hair from her braid, and she smiles without realizing it. A small, genuine smile, the kind born from those who, even wounded, have learned to walk again. At the top of the stairs, Cinderella pauses. Before her, the ballroom unfolds in a spectacle of light and color. Crystal chandeliers, velvet drapes, walls gleaming with the gold of firelight and the blue of shadows. The sound of the music envelopes everything, like an ocean inviting her to dive in. She stands still for a moment, watching the swirl of gowns, the movement of laughter, the curious eyes beginning to turn toward her. There is an invisible reverence in the air, as if everyone, without knowing why, senses that something extraordinary has just entered the room. The coachman, still beside the carriage, watches from afar. He smiles, for he knows something Cinderella perhaps does not yet. That some stories do not begin when the door opens, but when a soul chooses to cross through it. Inside, the ball continues in its splendor, but the true dance is about to begin. One guided not by music nor by destiny, but by the quiet power of a woman who has finally allowed herself to be seen. And so, under the watchful gaze of the moon, Cinderella takes her final step and crosses the threshold, carrying with her all the light the world had forgotten to see until that night. The ballroom opens before her like an entire universe, a sea of light and sound. The air feels weightless, almost golden, and the fragrance of flowers mingles with the glow of chandeliers suspended like constellations. Every detail seems enchanted. The reflections of crystal upon marble, the murmur of conversation, the graceful slide of dancers across the floor. Cinderella pauses at the entrance for a heartbeat, taking in this world that, until recently, existed only in her dreams. Her gown moves around her body as if it has its own will, and the radiance in her eyes rivals the finest jewels in the room. No one knows who she is, but everyone feels the same. There is something different about her, an ancient gentleness, a presence that can't be explained, only felt. As she advances, the guests turn to watch, curiosity stirring in every glance. The sound of her crystal shoes striking the floor is the only thing that can be heard for a few suspended seconds. Even the music seems to hesitate, as though time itself wished to linger on this quiet apparition. Cinderella feels her heart race, but the fear is gone, replaced by a deep enchantment, the certainty that she is exactly where she's meant to be. Every gaze that meets hers is a reminder that, even after so much forgetting, the beauty of the soul never fades. She moves with grace, and the world seems to part for her passage, as if destiny itself were whispering, "At last, you've arrived." The prince, surrounded by laughter and elegant company, stops mid-conversation without knowing why. His eyes find her among the crowd, and in that instant, all sound becomes silence. There is something in her presence that disarms time, a light that doesn't come from her gown but from within. He rises, crossing the hall unhurriedly, as though walking through a dream. The guests murmur, the dancers pause, the musicians exchange bewildered glances. And when he stands before her, nothing is spoken. Only the sound of her heartbeat, and his fills the space between them. The music resumes, slow, soft, almost ethereal, and the prince extends his hand. The gesture is simple, yet it seems to reach across centuries. Cinderella hesitates for an instant, then accepts. The touch is light, almost sacred. When they begin to dance, the ballroom dissolves around them. The floor is no longer marble, but cloud. The air is no longer fragrance, but dream. Their movement is so harmonious that even time itself bows to follow. And the prince, without needing words, understands she is not an ordinary woman, but a reflection of everything pure, a living memory of a kind of love the world has long forgotten. Cinderella lets herself go. She feels the warmth of his hand, the music's rhythm, the glitter of stars spinning with her gown. For the first time, she doesn't think, she only feels. Each step is a silent confession, each turn a promise of freedom. The prince, lost in the spell, realizes he doesn't wish to know her name. Not yet. He only wants to keep dancing, for as long as time will allow. Because some moments are not meant to be explained, only lived fully before they vanish. The entire ballroom watches, yet no one dares to intrude. There is something sacred in that dance, an encounter not merely of bodies, but of destinies. The sound of the violin swells, the air fills with light, and the world itself seems to hang in an eternal instant. Outside, the wind brushes the windows tenderly, and the stars flicker as if witnessing an ancient secret being remembered. And within Cinderella's heart, a single thought whispers softly, If this is a dream, let it never end. Time, however, has its own rhythm, and while the dance continues, the palace clock, high in its tower, begins to stir. A single chime breaks the air, deep and resonant, like the call of a destiny that will wait no longer. Cinderella feels her body tremble. The sound seems to pass through her soul, reminding her of the promise she made to the fairy godmother. The enchantment, which until now had been light as wind, begins to turn heavy, real. With each toll, the music loses a little of its brilliance. The ballroom blurs, and her heartbeat quickens. The prince, bewildered, reaches for her, but her eyes are already far away, not with fear, but urgency. It's time to leave, before the spell dissolves before them all. She steps back, her gown still floating around her body as though it resists farewell. "Wait!" the prince calls, but his voice is swallowed by the relentless sound of the clock, louder, more merciless with every beat. Cinderella glances around. Everything seems to move in slow motion. The people, the lights, the music, all of it melting together into a swirl of color and sound that fades like a painting washed by rain. She thanks him with one last look, a sad and serene smile, the kind that carries the taste of something perfect. And then, without thinking, she runs. The ballroom opens before her. The staircase calls her back to the real world, and her heart races in time with the clock that counts down her miracle. The steps seem endless. The cold night air greets her like a plunge into another world. Her gown glows brightly for a fleeting moment, then begins to dissolve, petal by petal, as if the magic were retreating to its source. The wind lifts the delicate fabric and scatters it like luminous dust. The stars look down, silent accomplices to an escape more poetic than tragic. And then, amid her haste, one of her glass slippers slips off her foot and glides softly across the marble stair. Cinderella looks back for only a second, and knows she must not return. The shoe remains. Destiny, now, has proof that what happened was no dream. At the foot of the staircase, the carriage waits, panting, alive, like a magical creature on the edge of vanishing. The horses whinny, the coachman shouts something the wind carries away, and Cinderella climbs aboard in haste. The prince appears moments later, running, eyes aflame, breath unsteady. But he arrives only in time to see the carriage fading down the path. He calls out, but the sound is lost. The magic is unraveling, and the instant that bound them begins to turn into memory. Above, the final chime marks the end of the spell. The moon flickers in silence, as if understanding the irony of the gods. That love, when true, always leaves something behind to be found. On the way back, the carriage loses its form. The gold folds into pumpkin once more. The horses shrink into mice, and the coachman dissolves into sparks of light. Cinderella is left alone, standing in the dark road, her gown now a simple dress, her bare feet touching the cold earth. The air still carries the faint perfume of the ball, and though her heart aches, it is calm. For even if the magic has faded, the memory of what she lived remains, and no stepmother, no darkness, can take that from her. There is something eternal in what was felt, something time, however strict, can never undo. She looks up at the sky, and the moon meets her gaze with a knowing glow. The stars seem to smile, as if to say that nothing has ended, only changed its shape. Cinderella walks slowly along the road, her face lit by that silvery light that understands all without speaking. She doesn't know what awaits her, only that something does, as surely as the sunrise. And as the wind whispers through the trees and the world falls asleep once more, a new truth writes itself in the night's silence. Love, when real, always finds its way back. Dawn arrives with the tenderness of a secret. The sun begins to touch the kingdom with golden fingers, and every ray that slips through the windows seems to carry a memory of the night before. In the palace, the echoes of the ball still linger in the halls, yet another sound draws attention, the faint chime of something forgotten upon the marble steps. The prince, exhausted and unbelieving, finds the glass slipper. He lifts it with trembling hands, and the world around him falls silent. That small piece glimmers as if it had trapped the very moon inside it. The cold touch of the crystal against his skin confirms the impossible. She was real. His gaze, lost between awe and sorrow, settles into resolve. He will find her, even if he must cross the entire kingdom. The days that follow are filled with searching. Messengers are sent to every village, and the prince himself travels with them, tireless. Each door knocked, each curious glance, each young woman who tries on the delicate shoe becomes part of a hope bordering on myth. None fit. With every failed attempt, the glass seems to lose a bit of its shine, as if the magic were falling asleep, waiting to be awakened by its true keeper. The people whisper, the story spreads, and the kingdom, once content in its routine, now lives in the shadow of this mystery. From afar, through the cracks of her window, Cinderella watches it all, her heart caught between fear and longing. She returns to her chores, yet nothing feels the same. The ashes no longer have the power to hold her captive, and even the walls seem less cruel. What she lived that night, the touch, the gaze, the dance, changed how she sees herself. Even in silence, there is a new light in her movements, a grace no one understands but everyone notices. The stepsisters mock the prince's search, each claiming she could be the one to enchant him, while the stepmother smiles with practiced disdain. But Cinderella carries the calm of one who knows destiny does not need witnesses to fulfill itself. Hope hums quietly within her chest, like a melody only she can hear. The prince arrives at that house as daylight fades. The carriage wheels stir up the dust of the road, and the whole village stops to watch him pass. Cinderella's heart races, though she hides it well. She watches from afar as the guards announce his presence, and her stepsisters, in a flurry of color and perfume, rush down the stairs dressed far louder than needed. The stepmother greets him with the smile of a woman rehearsed in deceitful grace. The prince bows politely, yet his eyes seem to seek something more. A silence, perhaps a memory. And then the glass slipper, resting upon its velvet cushion, shimmers faintly, as if it too recognized the heart to which it belonged. The trials begin. The sisters force their feet, laugh awkwardly, hide their pain, try to mask their disappointment. The prince watches with courtesy, though his thoughts are elsewhere. That delicate slipper refuses false owners. The stepmother attempts to end the scene, insisting no other maiden lives there. But destiny, ever patient, finds its way through lies. A gentle voice breaks the silence. Cinderella descends the stairs slowly, her head bowed, her hands entwined. No one speaks, but everyone feels the air change. There is something in her presence that can't be explained, as if the very house itself has begun to breathe again. Their eyes meet. The prince recognizes her, not by her dress nor her adornments, but by the light that shone from within her that night. The same pure radiance that now glows softly in her weary eyes. Cinderella steps forward, and the slipper is offered with reverence. When she slips her foot inside, the fit is perfect, as though the crystal had been shaped by her very soul. A murmur ripples through the room, the sisters pale, and the stepmother steps back. The prince smiles, a smile that asks for no explanation, only affirms what was always meant to be. The entire world seems to hold its breath, and in that single instant, between the sound of a sigh and the shimmer of crystal, the promise of the night before is fulfilled. Love, faithful to its nature, always finds its way home. The silence that follows the fitting of the glass slipper feels almost sacred. The prince and Cinderella remain still, as though time itself has bowed before the moment. Afternoon light filters through the window, resting upon them and bathing the hall in a warm, tender glow. The stepmother and her daughters watch in stunned quiet, awe mingled with shame. This isn't just the closing of an enchantment, but the revelation of something far deeper. Truth always finds a way to shine, even when buried beneath ashes. The prince extends his hand, and without hesitation, Cinderella takes it. In their touch lies a silent recognition, an ancient promise finding its way home. Outside, the people begin to gather. News spreads like fire through dry fields. The prince has found the mysterious young woman. Windows fly open, bells ring, and the wind seems to sing between the trees. The stepmother stammers excuses, tripping over her own lies, but Cinderella's gaze carries no resentment. She simply bows her head in forgiveness, not out of weakness, but of strength. For one who has known pain and still chooses kindness holds a power no crown could ever grant. The prince witnesses this and understands. His search was never for beauty nor destiny. It was for this soul, capable of loving even when the world forgets her. The golden carriage, this time real, awaits at the door. The sun begins to sink, painting the sky in copper and rose. Cinderella bids farewell to the house that was both prison and refuge, stage and trial. Every wall, every stair, every shadow holds the echoes of who she once was, and the quiet testimony of who she has become. She looks back one last time, not in sorrow, but in gratitude. For even pain, when understood, becomes a teacher. The prince offers his arm, and together they cross the gate, not as heroes of a tale, but as two souls who found each other amid chaos. The road to the castle feels different now. The same wind that once carried fear now brushes softly through her hair. Stars begin to bloom across the sky, scattered like silent blessings. Cinderella rests her head against the carriage window, watching the landscape drift by. There is no urgency anymore, only peace, as though the universe breathes in rhythm with her heart. The prince glances at her and smiles quietly. He understands, without needing words, that the magic was never in the spell. It was in her essence, a light that time itself cannot dim, because it was born within. When they reach the palace, the great gates open slowly, as if wishing to savor the moment. Torches flare to life, musicians take their places, and the same ballroom that once held their enchantment now becomes the stage of renewal. There is no rush, no grand spectacle, only the soft sound of their steps echoing on marble, marking the arrival of something true. The prince leads her to the center of the hall, and for a moment, everything returns. The music, the light, the fragrance of flowers. Yet this time, there is no fear of the clock striking midnight. For what is real needs no magic to endure. And as the moon rises full and radiant, lighting the castle towers, the entire kingdom seems to fall silent in reverence. Cinderella, serene at last, gazes at the sky and smiles. She has not become a princess. She has simply remembered she always was one. The gown, the ball, the glass slipper, they were only mirrors reflecting her awakened soul. And so, beneath the blessing of the night and the witness of the stars, the story ends where it should, not with the promise of happily ever after, but with something far truer. The beginning of a life lived in light, freedom, and love, where the extraordinary finally feels like home.